Not touching a damn thing now. Ever again.
All right. Hello there. It's time to get cultured. I'm your host, James, and with me, as always, are my co hosts, Catherine and Richard. Say hello, guys.
What's up,
How you doing?
guys?
This week, thank you for joining us. This week, we're going to be taking a look at The Mandalorian's second episode, as well as episode 12 of The Bad Batch Season 2. But before we dive in, remember to like and subscribe to stay up to date with all of our content here at Culture Slate, and hit the bell icon to be notified of the moment we upload new videos. So,
Do it.
first thing I want to talk about, what were your favorite moments of The Mandalorian this week? Because there's a lot to pick from.
Yeah, it was a good episode.
Go,
I think my
Richard.
favorite.
Go.
Oh no, you go first, Kat.
Oh, okay. I was like, go. Probably Grogu. As always, I love Grogu. But Grogu really had the chance to show us what he could do this week. It was really awesome. It's really funny because we know that he knows how to use the Force. He trained at the Jedi Temple. He trained with Luke for 2 years. He knows what he's doing. He's just scared to do it. And I think a lot of that has to do with Order 60. But when his dad, I think Bo-Katan is the first one actually to call Din Djarin Grogu's dad. And when his dad is in trouble, he is just like on it and ready. And I seem to remember when he comes back with Bo-Katan, and she says, I know you're scared, but, we've got to keep going. You've got to show me where he is and all this stuff. So it seems like he knows exactly how to do all of the cool things. He's just scared to do it. And so I'm actually looking forward to watching him on that journey, because that's kind of one of the first things we've seen about him that it's like, wow, you have something to improve about yourself, a place to go. So I thought that was really awesome.
Yeah.
And it was, like you said, it's really interesting to see him the moment that, like, his father, Din, is in trouble. He just flips that switch. Yeah. What about you, Rich?
Yeah.
To kind of build on what you were saying, it's kind of like how, Fear Leaves Anger and all that stuff. So it's kind of great to see how Bo knew Jedi. And she's like, hey, I know you're scared, but Jedi have to kind of overcome that. So I think that was cool. And I like how when Grogu is in trouble, everybody constantly changes their opinion. And the first season, it was Cara Dune. She's like, hey, I can't help you. I'm a cop now. I don't know what to do. And he's like, Grogu got kidnapped. And she's like, let's go right now. In this season, you have Bo, and she's like, oh my God, Din's back. I'm so annoyed. I'm going to tell him to leave forever. Where is your dad? We're going to get him right now. Like, I thought that was funny. But my favorite part, I really like how well Peli Mota spoke like Jawiz or however you say it. Like, she just started speaking the language. Yeah. And I was like, that is the best I've ever heard it in my life. Like,
that was very impressive.
I love her character. Like, it's very like just campy Star Wars, which I think people kind of forget about. Like, it doesn't have to be like Darksaber crazy thing. You can have fun and laugh, and it was funny.
I think for me, man.
Yeah, she was.
Oh, go ahead, Catherine. I'm sorry.
Oh no, go ahead. Sorry, I was just gonna say I was noticing to myself when I was watching her talk that she must know like a million languages.
Yeah,
people.
But I guess that comes with running a starport on Tatooine, one of the most important planets in the galaxy. It's nowhere near the middle of the galaxy. Anyway.
I remember that first part in like the first season where like he's like, "Oh, what's an officer? How are you doing? Hide that, and then it was like, she's hysterical.
And that's like in this episode, she stole the guy's speeder parts and was like, oh, it'll take me like 6 weeks, but I'll rush it for you, but it's going to be more money. And then she's like, all right, let's start putting these parts back on. I think my favorite whole part of the episode had to be like the shot of the N1 coming through that like stormy atmosphere and breaking, and then you see the surface of Mandalore just destroyed. I'm not going to lie, I kind of almost cried.
It was a good scene because like they don't overdo the special effects, so when they show them, they look great. You know what I mean? Like it was great.
Yeah,
and then even like in the planet where Sundari, that was the capital, right?
Yeah,
where it was. Oh my gosh, breathtaking.
Yeah, it was cool because like if you only ever really seen it in like the cartoon or like Rebels or I think Clone Wars, so to see it kind of not only just 40 years later, just destroyed. They did a perfect job.
Look, thousands of years old. It was super impressive.
Yeah.
So before we get into the breakdown, I'd like to play a game.
That's cool.
This is called Revenge of the Pick. I'm going to give you guys 2 options, and we'll see which one everybody kind of goes with. Our first option is, if you had to pick one ship to fly between them, is it the Ghost or the Millennium Falcon?
Maybe.
For me, it's the Ghost.
What about you, Catherine?
Yeah, I knew it. I would probably say the Ghost too. I think it would be pretty intimidated flying the Millennium Falcon. Thing's massive.
I
mean,
think it's
cool,
easier to
but
fly the
I don't
Ghost
know.
because it's in the center of the ship instead of off to one side.
Yeah, and it's the Ghost. The Ghost is a home and has an extra ship on it. Like, it's the way to go.
Okay, all right. So the Ghost. My second question. I hope this is a little bit harder for you guys. Chopper or R2?
Chopper.
Chopper is the GOAT.
Not hard at all.
I was expecting some of these to be harder.
I would choose Chopper over the Millennium Falcon and the Ghosts because that droid
cracks me up.
The man. He's the greatest.
Yeah.
It's a lot more. It's a totally
Plus
different
it's Dave
personality.
Filoni. I mean, you can't go wrong with him.
He's destroyed so many people in the Empire. He's a 10th responsible for the downfall of the
hopefully
Empire.
A different droid-based question, since we're watching The Mandalorian and we just saw season 1 of Andor last year. K2 or IG-11? Who's the better companion?
Ooh.
IG-11. IG-11 for me.
Is it just because Taika voices him?
No, I don't know. I just think I have the feels with IG-11 way more than I do.
He's definitely a more dangerous
Alan Tudyk is really cool, and I just think of him when I think of K2. But
and that's exactly where I go to.
I go with K2.
I'm picking K2
and repurposed
on that
droids
one too.
are awesome. Yeah.
He's so sarcastic and so like
yeah.
he's a little depressed that your droid. Like, I'm taking him.
All right. So if you had to pick, who's walking away from a fight on top? Obi-Wan Kenobi or Mace Windu?
In a fight?
In a fight. Head on. Who walks away with the belt?
The thing for me is I know a lot about Mace Windu, and that is my problem. We know a lot about Obi-Wan Kenobi, but I haven't read a lot of the content because Mace Windu's story is pretty much all in comics and books, and I've not read any of that. I mean, if we were just going off of like the movies, I mean, I don't even know then. The only thing I would know that Mace Windu really has going for him, if that's all I knew, would be like Shatterpoint. So I don't know.
Ooh. And you know, that was something I was going to point out. The reason I've matched them up is their fighting styles are very opposite one another. When Mace is a very aggressive fighter, whereas Obi-Wan more just kind of lets the Force flow through him and guide him in a very defensive stance.
I'm pretty sure Mace once punched like a droid in the chest with his bare fist, so he's kind of crazy.
Mace just because I don't know a lot about him, and I hate using.
You know what?
Yeah, I hate using this excuse, but I just don't know enough about Mace Windu, so I'm going to say Obi-Wan.
But you already know he's got like the most overpowered force power ever.
I knew you were going to put
Shatterpoint is incredible
in this game.
He's coming back. I don't know when. And I don't know why.
But
is that a prediction right there?
It didn't save him in the end, did it?
For years, I've said he's coming back.
So
Samuel L. Jackson wants to come back.
Survived Order 66.
I think he survived.
If he does come back, it's going to be because the fans want him back. It's not going to be because it was originally in the story. It'll be because the fans wanted it. And it's not a bad thing. I'm just saying, like, I think he was meant to die. And if he does come back, it'll be because he's much more popular than he originally. And it's Sam Jackson. So,
you know, like, don't bring him back and have it be meh. You know what I mean?
I think it would be really interesting if they took a dark turn with him and gave him sort of a redemption story trying to get back at Palpatine like 5-10 years later. Of course, he fails.
Yeah.
But I think
That'd be
seeing him
interesting.
go from
That would
like
be
broken
interesting.
Jedi to hero of the Republic one more time would be very fulfilling.
I feel like Mace got kind of a raw deal too, because the movies came out, and then when they decided to do the prequels, you have to tell a story that is independent from everything else, but it has to end exactly where, not exactly where, but where Episode 4 would generally take place. So you have this character Mace, and you have to set him up to be a slight antagonist to Anakin because he needs that for the story just to progress. So
I hadn't even thought about that.
So you make Mace this kind of like bad character because there's no one else to do it.
Yes.
See, the Episode 3 novelization paints him very
and he's
differently.
very much the symbol of the politicism of the Jedi.
They even show that in Tales of the
Jedi,
So
because he calls him like a careerist or something.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
sorry.
Yeah. And
Our
I think
last
that's the opposite of,
this.
What Anakin is.
That's a good point. He's more, rogue, go with the flow. But the ultimate question, which is better? Revenge of the Sith or Empire Strikes Back?
Ooh, Empire.
Like better movie or more that I like to watch more?
Which one's your favorite and why?
I'm going to go Empire. You said Empire too? I think for me, anyway, it's Empire because I love
Empire too, yeah.
I love Revenge of the Sith, but I think it's like, I can remember watching Empire as a kid and watching it as an adult and thinking it's a well done movie. Like it's paced amazingly, all that nonsense. But just the story, like, just Hoth, Luke, Yoda, the fight, it was just amazing. The I am your father. And then it ending kind of like, on a down note and Bubba Pepper, like everything about that movie slaps. And I love Revenge of the Sith, but they're like 1 and 3 for me. Like Revenge of the Sith is like 3 or 4, and Empire's 1 or 2.
And that's how I feel. It's like The Last Jedi, then Empire, and then The Phantom Menace. Because I'm told I have a terrible taste in Star Wars movies.
Don't listen to the internet.
But I don't know. For me, it's like the middle of a trilogy is so difficult, and they just nailed it. It's like one of the, I think, only middle movies in a trilogy that really is as fantastic as it is. And plus you can't beat the I Am Your Father revolution either. So plus I love the sets in it and all, there's just, it's just awesome.
Yeah, man. It goes from Cloud City to Hoth to like spaceships to an asteroid field. Like it's just the perfect Star Wars adventure,
That is true. You get all over the place with it.
I have to say though, when I was a kid, I was gonna say when I was a kid, that movie made absolutely no sense to me.
Fun fact: I was like, I didn't see Empire until I was a teenager.
Now I do.
Because we only had A New Hope and Return of the Jedi on VHS. So I thought there were only 2 movies until I was like 13.
Like, wait, what happened? Dude, I still have those VHS tapes because I'm so old that I have like the VHS thing. And then the reissue in '97 when the special just.
Oh God.
Yeah. I went to see those movies in the Ziegfeld Theater. I thought it was the coolest kid in the world. I was like, I'm gonna go see Star Wars.
That's awesome.
So, speaking of Star Wars and the Great Adventure, let's talk about The Mandalorian this week, guys. We kind of talked about some of our favorite moments in the show, but this time we're just going to kind of generally discuss what happened in the episode and things like that, and maybe some things that we noticed and some tinfoil theories might come out for the end of the season. So, we started off with them going to Mandalore. Did anybody expect those weird cave things?
I kind of did just because it was in the trailer. And I know that they like to get rid of all the stuff from the trailers, like early on in the episodes. So once I saw the cave, I was like, that looks like the cave where that person was thrown out of. But, I pay way too much attention to detail. So, like, that's how I knew. But I didn't think that spider creature that, like, kidnapped Mando, like, later.
No, I wasn't expecting that at all.
And I don't know how people are hating on this internet. I literally saw a tweet where it was like, this is garbage.
Awesome.
Where's this show going? I'm like, where's your show going? To the top, bro. Like that. Like,
how do you watch that whole episode and think, oh, where is this going? Are you kidding? Because we'll talk about the biggest reveal ever in Mandalorian history later.
But no, I think that creature looked like Darth Maul too when he was.
You know, I'm glad that you said that because that is our theory. Is that little eye there?
It
kind of looks like that guy. And also the weird spider thing's probably not
okay. It does, but the black tattooing around, but it looks like a Sith eye. It really does.
It does.
Yeah, I think it was just a nice little nod to.
It looks like a Sith eye. I'm telling you.
Rebels, but I feel like they like to do kind of like an Easter egg where you see like the machine thing, and I thought that was really cool. And it was great to see Bo-Katan, after she comes back and she saves him, like she basically was just amazing with that darksaber, and didn't even she laid it out for him to take back. Like that, I thought she was going to take it there for a second, but then they kind of just she's over it. She's like, no.
Yeah, I really, especially with how smooth she was on that thing, like she made Din look like a fool.
Dude, like she said to Grogu, "You think your father was the only Mandalorian?" Like,
which brings me to something you had pointed out, Richard, and I'm going to let you take this over after the clip.
It's heavier than I thought.
Energy constantly flows through the crystal. You're not fighting with a simple blade as much as you are directing a current of power. Your thoughts, your actions, they become energy. They flow through the crystal as well and become a part of the blade.
Yeah, I love Rebels so much, man. That clip is obviously from Rebels, and it's I think the episode Trials of the Darksaber, when Sabine basically Ezra finds the Darksaber in Darth Maul's kind of hideaway. They take it away, they kind of forget about it. And then when the whole Mandalore plot of Rebels comes down, they want her to basically reunite her family and kind of organize an army versus the Empire, which kind of happens, kind of doesn't. But like he said, the energy kind of flows, and I think it's kind of a big thing that we're not talking about is that Din can't, since the first season, can't use it. It's like 100 pounds. He's conflicted, and when Bo got it, she was cutting like a Jedi. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think they're trying to show that like Bo knows what she wants. She knows what she wants to do. She just doesn't know if she can because of outside influences. Din, I think to this day, he doesn't know what he wants to do. He knows he wants to be, in the waters of Mandalore and kind of had a rebirth from his tribe because that's what his his cult kind of taught him. You know what I'm saying? He needs that. Yeah. But I think everybody else in the universe would be like, Dan, you can do your own thing. You can go retire. Like his friend Navarro said, just have a plot of land, be a sheriff, and live the life of your dreams. And he just can't do that because he's lived one way for so long, and now he's a father, and he just doesn't know what to do. And I think that internal conflict is going to cause him not to be able to use the Darksaber. I don't know forever, but for a while. And it's definitely going to come to a head in the season because he was able to beat those guys, but eventually everybody is going to know that he has a Darksaber, like Kanan said to Sabine, and they're going to come and they're going to challenge him for it.
Yeah.
So, we're going to see a bunch of Mandalorians this season, and we already know that ancestor of Vizsla wants it. So, he could challenge him again, and just cheat. And
yeah.
Well, I mean, honestly, Din didn't even seem as smooth as he was in that fight with Pre Vizsla with it this time. Like, I think if he tried to fight him again, he might win.
They definitely have to resolve that plot line because I don't know if you can drag it out that long. You know what I mean? You can't drag it out for the whole season.
Completely agree. Although, I did also want to point out something funny.
We still have a lot of conflict left to cover.
We do. It kind of feels like the Bad Batch a little bit, where they're kind of slow rolling it until after the mid-season. And then they're going to probably get into it. I know the next episode is supposed to be like close to an hour.
Yeah. That's honestly the start of the season because the first two episodes were him just kind of doing what he wanted to do from the last arc, like kind of redeem himself. And now that all that's done, this is I think the first real episode. And I think that's why it's so long.
So, come on, guys. Twice in the same week. Pedro Pascal's character gets saved by a woman.
He basically got paid. He was like, "Hey, Dan, we're gonna need you to lay down more.
Hey, now,
so we're gonna need you." He's like, "I'm good. I'm just gonna lay down. Let the women take care of it."
He just keeps taking these L's.
Just take a nap.
Din loses a lot of fights, and so does Pedro. But we love him, so you get to.
Man, And I don't think we're done seeing Din lose this season at all.
Oh,
I think this season is
Definitely
really
not.
wrapped in
He's
mystery.
got a lot to learn.
Most of the trailer's gone, and it's gonna be crazy. Like,
see, in my head, a lot of this season's going to be spent with him dealing with whether or not he wants to stay an adherent to the Creed, or if he wants to kind of live more like Bo-Katan. Alternatively, after the end of the episode, I really think that Bo-Katan knows what she wants now.
she got the shock of a lifetime, man.
Both of them
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least she knew it was there when she got in the
I found it
water.
really interesting.
Well, I think it's supposed to be a myth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I found it
they're supposed to all be dead.
right. Yeah. I found it really interesting that when Bo-Katan had been talking to Din about when she took her oath and how she was like, oh, well, it was just ceremony and tradition and blah, 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 and kind of not making it out to be not as big a deal. But then the way that she watches him when he goes in the water, it's almost like she was remembering how proud her father was. And it was just like, she had this moment just kind of like of, I don't know if it was like realization or just like reminiscence, but she really just kind of seemed to have this moment where she almost like changed her mind about what she thought.
She probably realized that she's lying to herself a little bit too. Like, she
Yeah.
lost, so if she cared the way that she did, then it would destroy her. So she has to kind of be, I don't care, it's over. I don't care, it's over. But then seeing somebody who values it as much as her family did, like, and then she jumped into the water. She didn't say the prayer, but like she kind of
She didn't
had
even think about it either. She was like, gone.
Yeah, man. She redeemed herself too.
Yeah.
She
She
too.
was there.
She's in the water,
Yeah.
so
Does anyone know, was she in charge
Oh,
when the
yeah.
purge happened?
That's a really good point.
They don't
Yes.
go into it, I don't think, because I've seen in Rebels they give her the
She was
darksaber.
moved for it essentially by, yeah.
But you since we know the history of the Empire, like we know
Yeah,
that
but it's basically, yeah. It said
And
that
then
that's one of the reasons that the Children of the Watch left Mandalore for Concordia is because they felt that Bo-Katan did not deserve the darksaber because she didn't win it through combat. And that is actually what saved the bombardment of Mandalore, is that they had left. And so that is why they're still around, and pretty much most of the other Mandalorians are not.
Okay, so she was in charge when it happened.
Yeah.
So I wonder how many more lived then. Because I know she had her little squad with her, and then we have the Watch and the Children of the Watch that lived on
Two at
Concord
least.
Dawn.
Yeah.
So yeah, two at least.
Mhm. Yep.
But
Few.
that's interesting.
Yeah, two
I
at
thought
least.
that
I'm
she'd
sure a
been, like,
lot
deposed
got
or
off
something.
world.
Yeah.
I don't
think
Because she had
think
what, like
so.
10
And I think
others
that's
Jedi
one. I
survived,
think
a
that
bunch of
she
Mandalorians
lost
had
the
to
dark
survive.
saber.
before.
Yeah, I think she lost the dark saber in the bombardment of Mandalore. I think that's how it went to the Empire. And who knows? Maybe.
We might
Oh my
figure
gosh,
that out
names.
this season, maybe.
I can't with names right now, you guys.
Moff Gideon.
Carlos Esposito.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Moff Gideon.
Moff
So he's
Gideon,
coming
thank
back
you.
this
Oh my
season,
gosh.
so they might
Maybe
know how
Moff
he
Gideon
lost
was in charge of the bombardment of Mandalore, and that's how he acquired the dark saber.
I think he was. I think they say
a
that in
theory.
the first or second season of the show that he was in charge of it when they're
Mhm.
talking about like war
Oh, yeah,
crimes
do
he
they?
committed. I could be wrong. It's been a while since I've watched it, but if my memory
Yeah, I
serves,
slept since then, so
Exactly.
I know it's been a minute since that
so-
the first season. So
we got a couple more minutes left on this breakdown. Then we're going to talk about the Bad Batch for a couple of minutes. But the last thing we want to talk about today is the ending of the episode. What's that mythosaur doing down there, guys? How did it get there?
It means hiding from the bomb.
being mythical,
But like,
chilling,
let's say
hanging
40
out
years
for
ago,
somebody to say their
Bo-Katan
myth,
goes
and then
down
be like,
there,
wait a minute.
and she gets blessed in the waters, and it wasn't there, but now it is.
Well, think she went deep, man. Like she fell through, and she was powering down there for a while. So like that, and think they're already down there. They're probably like fissures in the earth that they can go. But I think that was, if you watch the Book of Boba Fett, when he gets the armor that he gets forged from the armorer for Grogu, she says that legend told that the mythosaur would rise again and bring the second age of Mandalore.
Yeah.
So this could just be saying like, hey, the Mandalorians are
Mhm.
officially coming back. And it's crazy because she says that it's a mythical creature. They like this guy, the original Mandalorian, was lying. He's like, he didn't do that. He just, he didn't do that. But now we know he did, and that's the thing. Like that thing is 5 stories high, man. It was huge.
Yeah. It was
She was just
massive.
Yeah,
All
it
you
was
saw
huge.
was like the eye and the
It's
tusk.
awesome.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I watched it
that
with
was
my
really cool.
wife, and she saw me, and she was like, "What is it?" She didn't even like wait. She was like, "It's clearly
like,
important."
what now?
Yeah. What was that? She's like, "Oh, we're
That's
leaving
awesome.
now," and just fly. Like, I'm never going in those waters again.
But
Yeah, it's just
incredible
like, okay,
episode.
I'm
I
out.
can't wait to see what happens next. I do think we might get some more background on what happened with the Darksaber this season. Because it seems like they're kind of leading us in that direction with the
definitely.
I ruled over
Too.
Mandalore for a brief time when she had the Darksaber. But getting to the Bad Batch, there's a new heartthrob this week. We've seen Hauser. Now I'd like to introduce you to Mayday. Some are calling him May Daddy on the internet.
He's got your beard, bro.
He does. It's all patchy on the
Now,
sides.
you know, no one's going to beat Hauser, and I will take that opinion to my grave. You can pry it from my cold, dead hands.
No one's beating Hauser.
It's not happening.
Hauser, I don't know. I think they might be tied for most tragic deaths of the season so far.
I don't know.
But
I don't think so.
This week's Bad Batch was really interesting because, again, we have oscillated back to Crosshair and the Empire and gotten a lot more of how the Empire treats clones, which, Richard, you had mentioned to kind of show a contrast here. This is Plo Koon talking to some clones in Season 1.
All due respect, General. Strategically, it doesn't make any sense for someone to come look for us. If I was in command, I'd be hunting that weapon down.
I value your life more than finding that weapon.
I miss him every day. I really wish it would have been him that came back in Season 2 of The Mandalorian.
Really? That is a hot take. No Luke?
No Luke.
Mm.
But
I love
this is how we see the Empire treating the veteran clones who are still serving now.
Now, leave him and get back to work. While you're still useful.
And I'm going to cut it right there because Catherine hasn't seen that that episode at all. But
yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
Just with those two shots, what a great
reaction.
job they've done showcasing the brutality of the Empire in the Bad Batch and the transition between the two.
Yeah.
And I think, Catherine, even you can speak to it without having seen the episode because you've watched everything up to that one, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I mean, you think about with what Palpatine did very recently with, it kind of viewpoint is the clones are kind of these war veterans out, and so Palpatine's like, oh well, they're unreliable, and so now we have to bring in the Age of the Stormtrooper, and so there is this whole thing surrounding the clone, kind of how they are just being tossed aside. But at the same time, we know that they're just because they're clones, they're not people. Rex Commander Cody was talking about that when he was speaking Crosshair. It's like, we're clones, but we're not robots, So there's a lot of really good theming along those lines in this season, and I absolutely love that. It's one of my favorite things about this season is just these drawing these comparisons and contrasting, what it means to be a clone, which is awesome.
And that's honestly been my favorite aspect of the entire show over the 2 seasons is we've given a lot more depth to clones that when they were born were just numbers. And then the Clone Wars, we saw them get names. And now we're coming to the natural conclusion of what happens when you're no longer needed in service anymore. And they have done an absolutely heartbreaking job of portraying it this season.
Like me personally, I think the Bad Batch is just Clone Wars seasons like 8 and 9 and 10. It's the same
That
as
is Clone Wars After Dark. There are some dark themes in this show.
Yeah, man.
I would not show this to my kid.
Do you remember when Gunji was just standing there in the back and was
Yeah.
by a spider? It's like, yeah, this is a kid show.
That was my favorite episode of the season because it gives me so much hope that Knights of the Old Republic's remake is still coming. You don't drop that many references. And
Yeah.
just not
I just love Kashyyyk. So anything with Kashyyyk, like I think some of these other planets that are famous,
awesome.
like need to be explored more because they're so great. I think that's why I love Jedi Fallen Order because Kashyyyk and Dathomir
Yeah.
are kind of like it's great planets. You know what I mean?
And I can't wait to see where Survivor takes us. I really
There's
hope
so
we
much
get to go back to
Tatooine
Kashyyyk.
lately. It's like, let's go somewhere else.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's a hot planet. I don't like sand, guys. You know what I'm saying?
The most important planet in the middle of nowhere. Again,
Yeah.
planet-wide cities, but we're doing it in the desert.
Yeah, I think the best thing about Bad Batch is that like you're telling all these stories in one show. Like right now, I'm thinking about is Commander Cody going to come back and maybe save Crosshair? Is he going to meet up with Rex? What's Rex doing? What's Rex and Echo's arc? The Bad Batch themselves. This brand new villain that we got for one day that everybody hates. They're able to do Filoni and like his crew are able to kind of generate these stories from no-name characters sometimes and just world build. And people are always like, oh, it's cameos, it's fan service. I'm like, it's not fan service. It's the story that happened, Like,
and they have that incredible power to make you love a clone or a group of clones that are only ever in one episode.
This guy was in one episode, and when he collapsed on the screen, I'm like, I'm ready to like beat this Imperial.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, like Hauser too. Wonderful story arc. Dead at the end of the episode. And then the one from season 1 that was Commander Gree. The one that was on Kashyyyk when episode 3 they gave Order 66.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he dies in the first season or gets arrested after he's like, I'm actually not gonna do what you're telling me to an Imperial officer. So you do see a lot of that, and they make you care so damn much. It's like Order 66 for clones, is just watching them slowly get pulled out of service because they're breaking.
Yeah.
And it's sad because the Jedi's love them, and then they end up like it's such a tragedy. That's just once you see the mechanics and it like kind of explained out, you're just like you realize how devastating it was for groups and groups of people.
And it kind of makes me wonder if the clones are aware of what happened. Because for
they
the
are
most
now.
part now they seem normal again. They
I
don't
think some of
seem
them
as like rigid. Well, I don't think Crosshair's ever been normal.
There's so much indoctrination, though. It may not have, felt abnormal to them because they were, convinced that, that, and I think that's where the good soldiers follow orders thing comes into play. That's basically an explanation
think
for
it
why
is
they were able
odd
to
that they
do what
all
they
say
have
that.
done and then continue on. Yeah. It's very purposeful. And I think about, soldiers in real life. I mean, there are things that they do or have to do, or, they may not want to do that. There are lots of soldiers that have a very, very hard time when they come back from war, and it's horrible. And, this is very much like I think that some thought is put into that realism when we see some of these clones. And I think it's something very much to be aware of, is that, things like this happen to soldiers. And I actually enjoy that element of them in the Bad Batch, is that we see that. And it's very sad.
Very classic Star Wars, because Star Wars is a story about like defeating fascists and like, being the good guys and things. So it's good that they
And it's also interesting that they have went from, much like Andor, Bad Batch this season seems to have went from like cartoon mustache twirling empire to like ruthlessly bureaucratic bad guys, which is way more terrifying in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
Because it takes all of the humanity out of it, and you're just looking at paperwork and signing.
I think that's the good thing about like Star Wars as a whole, and I kind of always say this about Marvel too. Like once you get to a big enough place, there's something for everybody, because some episodes you do have a twirling mustache villain, and then some episodes you do, like you have Logan, you have Infinity War, but then you have Miss Marvel in that, and here you have Bad Batch, Resistance, you have Rogue One, you have Andor, and then you have the Book of Boba Fett, which had a little bit of camp. And I'm sure people wanted the camp not in the Book of Boba Fett, but deal with it. It's still, people still like it. You know what I mean? Like, it has billions of fans, so even if you don't like something, millions of other people do because it's for everybody. And I love that about Star Wars. Like, it knows how to just kind of hit the right notes for like its fans. Because I don't always think fan service is bad if it's done well. And this show, I can't wait for the last 3 episodes.
Well, there are books and comics and kids' books and everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we have any final thoughts before we say our goodbyes, folks? Any last bits we want to get out?
I think a prediction that
I am enjoying both The Mandalorian and The Bad Batch so far.
Which one more?
Ooh.
For the last 2 weeks. Not in general, but the last 2 weeks.
Well, that's hard because we're so much farther along in The Bad Batch. Like, there's so much more going on in The Bad Batch right now than The Mandalorian. I don't know. I really, really enjoyed the last episode of The Mandalorian. I think it opened the doors for so much to happen. And I do have to say that I have been a little bit like, I understand that not every episode in a show, especially a show that is running with as many episodes as The Bad Batch is, I understand that not every episode can be like dedicated to a linear path. And I also understand the logistics of like their relationship with Sid. I too am ready to get over so many episodes for me that I'm like, I kind of wish they would. Yeah, I'm ready for it. Like, I understand, and there has actually been some very good character development in those episodes, but I am really ready for a change with that. Whereas The Mandalorian, it's just like, even though things can get episodic, it's like each episode builds towards something else, where I felt like that wasn't as effective with The Bad Batch. But I mean, I love both. So
I think The Bad Batch should have taken a break. Like, as soon as Mandalorian came out, they should have stopped making episodes. And then once Mandalorian ended, you kind of just bring it back and have like a mid-season thing.
I think that would have hurt it more than anything.
Maybe.
Really?
Yeah, because think about it. They expect The Mandalorian to outshine The Bad Batch. Their problem's not we have to justify having both of these shows from a numbers standpoint. Because it's Star Wars, and anything they make prints money.
But my
I think that could be different audiences. I really do.
That as well.
Omega's going to be captured by the bad guys who brought down Tantus, and then Crosshair is going to be the one to save him.
Yep. 100%.
Because they have a crazy relationship.
Yep.
They like
which Wayland is one of my favorite planets.
Ooh. Oh. I'm so glad they brought it back. Because it was one of my favorite Legends things too. I'm waiting for Biss to make a comeback as well, the Emperor's planet. But I think that's all we've got for today, time-wise. So thank you all for tuning in to another week of Get Cultured. As always, I'm James, joined by Richard and Catherine. And we'll see you next week at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. Don't forget to join our public Discord server with the link in the description to carry on the conversation there. Have a great week.
Follow us on TikTok.
Follow us on TikTok.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
All right, bye guys.